Dear friends, thank you. Thank you. Please take seats. Unlike what Patrick Cohen said in the previous session, this was not the last one, and the one that is coming is not the least important. So we are very fortunate to have with us online the President of the Republic of Senegal, Mr. Macky Sall. I hope that you see us and hear us. I'm turning to technology. I can see myself. Mr. President, good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very happy to see you. Thank you very much with us. We're very happy to have you with us in Aix-en-Provence. It's raining, but we had 2.5 days of very intensive sessions, and we're very happy to close this 21st Rencontre économique Aix-en-Provence with you. I have with me your State Minister, Dr. Sheikh Conte, and we are very happy to work with him, with you. We don't have much time, unfortunately. We have about 20 minutes, Mr. President. Yes, perfect. And I have prepared with our friend Sheikh Conte a certain number of questions to ask you. Shall be a bit directive, professors are like that. You will have to be short on each of the questions and the answers, otherwise I won't get to the end of it. Now, first question, Mr. President. I know that it is dear to your heart. It is the question of the pandemics in Africa and especially in Senegal. Could you tell us in a couple of words your assessment of the situation on the COVID crisis? Thank you very much, Professor Boissier. It is a great pleasure for me to be back with the Cercle des économistes following the 2015 session. So this year, I'm very happy at the end of your days to take part to this event. Now, concerning the pandemics, the COVID-19 pandemics, just as I do, it was a surprise for mankind. These pandemics have shown the role we all have showed that we all have the same vulnerability, developed and emerging countries. We were not prepared to deal with the scope of the problem we faced, at the medical level, at the sanitary level, and the economic impacts. And it's not over. It's not over, not only in the health condition, but also in the economic plan. And therefore, the consequences have not yet been fully felt. So, when the first cases occurred in March 2020, we anticipated on the restriction measures on the lockdown, closure of border, air, sea, land, and we also implemented a state of emergency for several months to minimize the circulation of the virus, and at the same time we developed the sanitary defense or healthcare because we didn't have much knowledge about the disease. Well, we wanted to isolate the patient to make sure that the deficit in equipment and protection and the the work in hospital be done before the end of the year. And we built one of the infection disease treatment center, the most modern, with a capability of more than 200 beds for infectious disease with the last generation standards. So we tried to continue this propagation, and therefore, globally, in Senegal and in Africa, if contamination wasn't too severe, well, and in terms of casualties, still, for the last phase, the last epidemic, correspond to what we call the third wave. Well, this could be so difficult for Africa, taking into account the situation and the fact that for 2 years now the populations are, follow the instructions. People are tired. Whereas Africa, I did not get the vaccine, and we'll have the opportunity to discuss the issue of vaccination. Despite the efforts, major countries did a vaccinal nationalism. And I was very surprised to hear yesterday that in the US, they're vaccinating animals while mankind, for most of the developing countries, we are at less than 1% of vaccination rate. So beyond those goals, we fight for resilience, for economic recovery, and the economic consequences will be disastrous for our impact. And we need international solidarity, more active sovereignty efforts be made on COVAX, but it is still very poor, and we need additional effort at the economic level, and we will be able to discuss and the new measures on the special field. Thank you, President. Let's move on to the last point. Even if we change the order of my interview. Now, concerning the mobilization in favor of Africa, well, you took part in it. There was the summit in Paris, France-Africa in the summit where Mr. Macron, President Macron, received several African leaders and international organizations. We talked about COVAX, but, necessary, and you said not sufficient. We talked about the new special printing rights to West Africa. We talked about the problem of the African debt. Now, is all this going in the right direction? Now, what are you expecting in addition to this from advanced? I want to pay homage to all the efforts that have been made. What is still insufficient and what I do expect from the partners from developed countries, a change of paradigm in the way to deal with the pandemic in Africa. We don't want to talk about Africa, but to talk with Africa, with Africans together to find the best suited solutions. Already, we need at the level of solidarity because well, there is a planetary disease. We need a global response. We know that northern countries were able to implement devices to manage this. We saw the resilience plan that the European Union, of the American plan. We've seen the number of thousands of millions that have been mobilized, which wasn't the case for developing countries, because they won't be able to, they don't have the same tools and the same means. What we're saying is that in order for Africa to ensure an economic recovery, we need that the special, there should be $650 million, and Africa gets only 33 billion for sub-Saharan Africa. $33 billion. We can see that with this amount, we cannot even ensure we cannot even buy vaccines. So we advocated to have $100 billion for this, and for this, the major countries which don't need this classification should allow our countries to do what they want, not only to deal with the issue of vaccination, but also to ensure our access to the markets of capitals at sustainable conditions and make sure that the recovery could take place in Africa and developing countries. I think we have expectations. Recently, SOCEPS did help at the fiscal level measure, and I would like to thank the countries of the OECD which have just signed this international fiscal solidarity. We know that third world countries are those who suffer most from some aspect of the multinational, but we want to be supported. But we need as well, we should have access to credit. Today we need a lot of resources for Africa. These resources need to, concerning the long period of time, low interest rate, and we'll have more capacities, and we'll put it to the service of the debt, and will give us more force to launch recovery of job employment in Africa. Migration is a topic which is key, which annoys everybody. It's a difficult topic to fight efficiently against immigration. Well, but if there is a real economic recovery, if there is a reconstruction of the continent, well, We objectively we want in special rights, financial rights, partners of the North should help us. And I would like to salute President Macron, who was one of the advocates of this cause, and also the American presidency, the new administration that will, and the German, the Japanese, the Chinese, everybody now is there to help us, but they move on to action. This is a great expectation for the end of the year. You know, special right for 100 million for Africa, and we'll discuss the modality of use of this in favor of the continent. Thank you. Early on, you talked about resilience, and Senegal has shown resilience through this crisis, which is not over. Since the beginning of the rencontre on Friday morning, we all mentioned the issue of inequalities between generations and the fact that young people all over the world, and not in just in Africa, all over the world, are the first victims of the crisis in under many aspects. So a precise question as to the youth, young people in Senegal. What's your plan to help young people today to overcome their difficulties and not eliminate, but at least reduce the problems of intergenerational inequalities? Well, to talk about the youth in Senegal and the African youth in general, we have the same projection. First, more than 76% of the population is under 35. 70. So you can see that it is a very young population. To deal with solutions, well, there is long, medium, and short term. Well, for long terms, for the we want the emergence of our country with a growth rate of 2 digits, and the vocation is to ensure the vital functions for our country. It's food safety, and the purpose is to transform structurally the economy to ensure the sovereignty of youth and to give perspectives for development, but the development, solidarity development, development that would take place with management of the human resource aspect. And this is clearly the essence of this emerging Senegal plan. That before getting to these objectives, long-term objectives, in the short term, deployment of the plan, huge emergency plans have been developed, you know, free entrepreneurship and, you know, for women and youth. So it is a bank to finance entrepreneurship of the youth and women, and which was adopted important resources. And just now have developed, they have released 150 billion francs CFA, which is about 300 million euros for each year between now and 2024, where we will support youth employment, having given new orientation to professional training, because the key word is the employability. We noted that the education system, which is there, was now suited to the employability of youth, and therefore, so we go to professional training, and we do higher professional training in short term, which will make it possible to have young people who come out of school with the superior institutes of professional institutions, and they have a job, a qualification, and when economic will come back to 6.57%, of course, economy will run again, you know, and the professions will call for labor and will create employment. We have other instruments, including an employment agency, for youth employment agency, and we have a fund for the professional vocational training and all those instruments have been grouped in one location to give a single one-stop desk to do this. And I've just initiated the recruitment of 65,000 young people. 65,000, it's half of the public function. So those are young people. It is an important program, of course. For this program to last, we must have the capabilities to continue mobilizing national resources, but they should be also in the funding of the economy. There should be more attractive conditions that will facilitate the reimbursement of the budget. And this is why we often talk about the elongation of the interest rate, and we want to make sure that the insurances asked from Africa should be rearranged. This does not correspond to the reality. So what we want to make sure is that our partners will consider Africa as a partner in game, and we don't want just to have dotation that correspond to nothing, and which in fact block us in our efforts and to make sure that we stay on. So we continue this resilience through youth employment, through agriculture, and the new sector of human economy in all the service businesses, and we'll try to stay in this phase. So it's a form of mobilization of resources, but also we need to gain access to these resources. President, we come to the end now, to the end of my interview. Could you please ask us you wish to do with your future presidency of the African Union as of January 2022? In 2021, if I'm well informed, Rwanda was presiding the African Union, and Monique will come from Rwanda. She works on. We try to link up Africa. Doesn't need us, but we have to work together. East Africa, West Africa, Maghreb, South Africa, and so on and so forth. All different parts. So my question precise is as follows: you will organize a conference in November in Dakar. Conference of Head of States, African Head of States, to prepare your presidency of the African Union as of January. Precise question: what are your main goals for this Senegalese presidency of the African Union next year? Thank you, Professor. Let me remind you that 2021 was Republic of Congo. Yeah, Republic of Congo. And so it's a regional rotation. So after Central Africa, now it is West Africa in 2021 with 2022 with Senegal, who will preside the African Union. My mandate will include continuity and change. Continuity is to advocate for our continent on the questions which are essential to us, and mainly the fight for just payment of our resources, and especially natural resources, which will, of course, like mining contract, oil contract, this was often concluded at a different time, and which were imposed to the country. So we'll have to come back to all this, just as the G7 was brave enough. The G20 came back on revised the fiscal system, and there would be international solidarity. If we got nobody will be able to function if there is too much poverty on one side and too much riches. So nobody will stop the injustice in this world. So we have to try to reach these differences and to work for better payment, especially if this is done and the taxes are paid for. But Africa doesn't have Africa doesn't need public support, and in Africa, of course, we have to work to have more mobilization of resources in terms and in the budgetary management and the economic management. But we also need to work, and this will be a key point in my mandat, for the change of global governance in terms of reform of the United Nations system, because Africa, with 55 countries not present so in this Security Council, it is flagrant dysfunction, and we have to change the rule of financial support. So, and says access to resources, access to capital markets, and the exaggerated of risk, perception of risk. Make sure that Africa should be part of the game, and we in equal footing with its partner, and we consider Africa a bit as a young boy. We have to keep working with all the partners in a partnership spirit, in mutual respect. It's going to be a key point for us. This is what I intend to do for this mandate of budget. Thank you very much, Mr. President. 2 words to conclude. First, indeed,
Voilà.
Une bonne chose.
Deuxièmement, je ne l'ai pas dit au début parce qu'il y a en face de moi plusieurs centaines de personnes dans cette salle qui sont ravies de vous écouter, plus tous ceux qui sont connectés par les moyens électroniques modernes. Donc vous avez beaucoup de monde qui vous a entendu et qui vous écoute. Je voudrais saluer Elisabeth Moreno, qui est devant moi, à côté du président Lorenzi. Elisabeth, comme vous le savez, alors je ne vais pas faire d'erreur, est originaire du Cap-Vert. J'ai pas tout faux, hein, je suis un peu j'ai la moyenne. J'ai la moyenne à mon examen. Et Elisabeth, comme vous le savez, Elisabeth Moreno est ministre du gouvernement français aujourd'hui en charge de l'égalité. Et elle joue un rôle très important, elle est très écoutée, très entendue et très écoutée. Voilà, et vous avez également en face de moi, en face de vous, beaucoup, non seulement d'académiques, mais de chefs d'entreprise qui travaillent, qui sont désireux de travailler avec l'Afrique et en particulier avec le Sénégal. Donc, nous nous réjouissons, je voulais vous remercier au nom du Cercle des économistes, de nos rencontres, de mon ami et collègue, le président Jean-Hervé Lorenzi, de votre écoute, de votre participation active à nos débats. Vous étiez avec nous à Aix-en-Provence il y a quelques années, et je me souviens de ce que vous aviez dit, et ce que vous avez dit à l'époque était déjà important. Vous êtes une voix de l'Afrique qui est écoutée. Donc, nous allons être quelques-uns à vous retrouver assez vite, en principe, d'ici la fin du mois de juillet à Dakar, justement pour travailler avec vous sur la présidence de l'Union africaine, préparer la présidence de l'Union africaine par le Sénégal. Donc, je vous laisse le mot de la fin, ou les mots de la fin, forcément rapidement.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Christian Boissier. Je voulais saluer notre ami le professeur Hervé Lorenzo ainsi que tous les membres du cercle des économistes et aussi saluer ma sœur du Cap-Vert, ministre dans le gouvernement français, Mme Moreno, et vous dire que vous avez compris quand je parle de la présence de l'Afrique au Conseil de sécurité, c'est en tant que membre permanent, parce qu'évidemment nous avons 3 postes qui tournant comme membre non permanent. Le combat donc c'est de faire en sorte que l'Afrique ait des positions comme membre permanent conformément au consensus d'Iselveni qui engage l'Union africaine. Je salue le travail du Cercle des économistes et je suis très heureux de pouvoir continuer cette réflexion avec vous déjà au mois de novembre ici à Dakar et de continuer à bâtir le discours qui doit établir un pont entre l'Afrique et ses partenaires, dont le premier est l'Europe, avec qui tout nous lie, la géographie, l'histoire, mais également les autres continents, l'Asie, l'Amérique, l'Australie, et l'Océanie, pardon. Et je suis convaincu qu'avec une nouvelle mentalité, nous pouvons bâtir un monde meilleur où tout le monde gagnera. Et c'est ça vraiment le défi que je veux lancer à tous mes partenaires du Nord. Je suis convaincu que l'Afrique devra jouer sa pleine partition dans l'économie mondiale, puisqu'elle a les ressources minérales, les ressources naturelles, les terres arables. Il y a maintenant une question de...
Pero el chico y la chica no sabes cómo.
Et il est temps maintenant qu'on nous entende, on a assez frappé à la porte et qu'on écoute nos messages pour prendre en considération nos réalités et nos besoins. Et tout le monde y gagnera. Il n'y a pas de raison que les gens aient peur du développement de l'Afrique. Au contraire, ce sera bénéfique pour le monde entier. Ça va être de la croissance externe pour l'Europe, pour l'Amérique, pour l'Asie, mais ça va être du développement pour l'Afrique et de l'emploi. Donc voilà vraiment les mots sur lesquels je voulais terminer en remerciant le docteur Chakanté qui a assuré un bon suivi. Et merci encore une fois, professeur Bassier, ainsi que Jean-Hervé Lorenzi, professeur, et tous les amis d'Aix-en-Provence.
Merci à vous. Merci à vous. À bientôt. À bientôt.
À très vite.